agree with you, Master. And there is a lot of inequality, income inequality in India. How much of that affect the access to your facilities?
You're absolutely right. I would call this an 80-20 rule. 80% of India's specialists, people like me, live in the urban cities and the metros, whereas 750 million Indians have no direct access. They have to travel at least 100 kilometers to reach a secondary or a tertiary care center. And this is precisely why we feel that information and communication technology is the only way to answer this question. For example, we need to build 25,000 hospitals of 300 beds each, costing $5 billion US every year, year on year, to achieve the minimum standard prescribed by World Health Organization. Even if through philanthropists like you, I'm sure at the end of this conference, all of you are going to write checks for hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'm absolutely sure I will get $5 billion US to build these hospitals every year. But I will never be able to get doctors, nurses, paramedics, hospital administrators, etc., etc., etc. That is why we precisely think to make distance meaningless, to make geography history, telemedicine is the only way where we can extend our reach. You are absolutely right. The urban-rural health divide is unfortunately just too much. We have better than the best. At the same time, we have people dying, thousands of them dying every day because of sheer lack of access to health care.
Yes, ma'am. The lady standing up over there.
Yes, this question is probably best directed to Ms. Davis, but if anyone on the panel wants to chime in, I would welcome that as well. So in your experience, what are the most important and the first steps in developing lasting health program partnerships with Chinese counterparts at the organizational level?
I would say that probably the most important first steps would be to demonstrate your organization's credibility and experience in a certain area, be open to listening to the potential partners from China, listen first to see what they are interested in. And then I have found that establishing those professional and personal trusting relationships with key officials is so important. Really on a person-to-person basis, sharing common values and sharing common purposes related to, for example, a program goal or to address an issue, that is so important. It has to be a patient, trusting, long-term process to develop true partnerships.
Next question. Yes.
I'd like to start with Mr. Jennings and maybe the rest of the panel to chip in too. What are the three most important lessons from other healthcare systems that the U.S. healthcare system could adopt to improve U.S. healthcare?
My first answer on that is that you can always learn something from the other person. And one of the things in the United States that we can definitely learn from our Asian friends is the Asian culture has a greater sense of self-responsibility. Over 40 years in the United States, we've created federal, state, and accreditation rules and regulations that basically believe that the patient is incapable of helping in their care once they come into our facility. And for that reason, on the cost structure, that's why we have 3 to 4 individuals who never deliver care to a patient, but who are there to do all the other mechanical things of that type of thing. So at least in people that I've talked to who've been in Asian facilities and so forth, there's a greater sense of responsibility. So in Asia, a patient can actually walk to the x-ray department and get an x-ray. In America, you've got to be wheeled by a transporter. And some of those type of things. You can actually go get your food and eat it. In America, you've got to serve your food. So again, under the limited cost things, I think there's a lot to be learned there. And then secondly, I think what Dr. Kirshner said is I think in the Asian world, the use of the mobile phone is going to go faster and quicker, and so we can learn a lot from that technology and how those applications are utilized. That'd be a couple of quick examples on my part.
We're going to change, just we'll get right to you, but we're going to turn the tables on you for a minute. Allison said she's got a question for the audience.
Yes. So for those of you that wrote down my email address because you consider yourself having knowledge of China, we are looking for your help in figuring out some hypotheses to pursue to explain why the epidemiology of H5N1 and H7N9 in China are so different. They are both bird flus. And so you would think that people who are exposed to birds would be the same for both. But in H5N1, the people who are tending to get sick are middle-aged men and women equally, and children, most of whom are involved in raising livestock. For H7N9, most of the people who've been sick, up over 50%, are elderly men, over 55. And what we're trying to figure out is there some sort of social or cultural reason that this might be? Now, one thing to keep in mind is that with H5N1, the birds get sick and die. With H7N9, the birds don't. So that's the information that we have right now, and I'd like you guys to think about it. And if you have ideas as to why this epidemiology might be so different, please email them to us, to me. You have my email address, and we'll continue to explore that question.
And those that respond get extra credit.
If you solve it, you'll get a big prize.
Yes, next question.
Yeah, just as a follow-up to the last question, also about this. There's been a lot of talk about alliances, strategic alliances between organizations around the world. And in particular, your mention of the visitation by some of the Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, et cetera, in India. I was wondering, are you personally aware of any formal strategic alliances or business associations that are occurring between some of the major systems in the U.S., outside the U.S.? It's been a rather insular industry.
Yeah, currently, I would say in the healthcare system of the United States, it's mostly the academic institutions, most of whom in the last, I'd say, 7 years have created some type of sister partnership with systems in other countries. But I think pretty quickly now, in the next 3 or 4 years, you'll see other larger systems. Our system here is the 5th largest integrated delivery system in the United States that's not academically driven. And so I think all these challenges that we're talking about today, though, you'll see systems of our size reaching out and trying to find these partnerships so that we can learn from each other about all the things that you've heard this morning.
If I may just add to that. See, for example, now there are about 35 hospitals in India which are JCI accredited, which is the Apollo Hospitals was the first to start this movement. But this gives you an idea of the Indian hospitals trying to follow the American standards, one way. And two, I do know that negotiations are going on with Blue Star, Blue Shield, and some of the very major other insurance companies in the United States to have the JCI accredited hospitals in India recognized for medical reimbursement. So, I don't know what stage it is in, but I do know that.
Yeah, and I would also say that again, the goal of the United States, starting in 2010, was to get the 40 million people without insurance coverage covered. That number has grown to 46 million during the Great Recession. And the information coming out now is that for some reason yet to be understood, all the thousands of things that we're doing is only going to get 20 million of the 46 million covered. So I think, there's a huge number of individuals who, from the cost structure that was just described, in very serious conditions, will see medical tourism as their best solution for them until we can figure out why only 20 million people are going to get covered.
We probably have time for one more question. Dr. Nanda.
Thank you for the presentation. My question pertains to the term partnerships, innovation, collaboration, networking is what we've been hearing this morning to really be preventive in nature and not focus just on intervention. To what extent is the industry, the hospital, communicating to academia that we need to train people in healthcare to think and work and breathe interprofessional, interdisciplinary, participation with the community. Because I know in the real world, when our graduates go out into the real world, they are forced to work with others.
Right.
But those skills you don't, it's not in your DNA to do them. You don't, because of our egos, we are not willing to let go. But we don't train people like that. To what extent are you communicating that to academia, to train people in the professional industry?
Well, in the United States, one of the good things in the Affordable Care Act is the requirement that every 3 years there must be a total community needs survey done. And hopefully those surveys are all due to be reported to our federal government by July. And just in looking at the work that we're doing, it really then goes out and it draws the conclusion that without city, county government, social clubs, matter of fact, I'm a Rotarian, and we've spent billions of dollars providing polio all over the world and helping solve that problem, so I'm very proud of my Rotary Club. But when you get into obesity, childhood starvation, you cannot do it by yourself. So the universities, the political system, the social structure, I really think we're going to have a great opportunity in our country as these reports go in to be able to explain to people better how we have to connect to each other as a total community to prevent obesity, type 2 diabetes, congestive heart failure, and those kind of situations.
I think that's a very relevant question. It's already started. I had a team from Harvard Business School, a group of 6 MBA students with whom I mentored for 3 months online, and then they came to me physically for 1 week. We have also had a team from University of Michigan, Ross's Business School, from the Yale Institute of Management. So people are looking at India as a great opportunity to learn, and these are from all the top class universities in the United States. And my presence here today is hopefully to have a collaboration with Kennesaw University. And of course, I already have a formal MOU with Georgia State University 2 years later. And we are finding this an excellent win-win situation. I learned so much from the Academia of the United States. And the Academia of the United States, where they actually go to a village and physically see a doctor, see a patient there without lights or without that and this, their whole mindset transforms. I think it's a very important point which you raised.
Thank you.
Just to add to what we just heard from